What's good, everybody? This is Kenny C for Chilling with Jeff and Kenny C, bringing you an interview at this time. I'm joined with an R&B singer from Michigan. You may know him from collaborating with rap artist Drew 32. He goes by the name of B Smooth, and he's joining me right now. What's going on, B?
What's going on, Kenny, man?
I'm doing real good. Thank you for joining me for this interview.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. How did your music career got started?
It started, man, when I was very young. I always liked music. And my parents got divorced when I was about 2 years old. And my dad would come and get me on the weekends. So from that whole ride from Saginaw to Detroit, he would play these old songs, like stuff by the Temptations and the Spinners and the OJs. And at first, I hated it. But after a while, I started liking certain things about it and started appreciating it. And also, he would mix in stuff like Biggie, Tupac, rappers like that. So it started at a very young age, just the appreciation of music. Yeah, I can't talk to that. Appreciation of music. And then from there, I started, writing and doing my own thing.
Who do you consider as influences in your music career?
Influences. Well, actually, I started in church at Mount Moriah in Pyatt, Michigan. So Bishop Murphy and Divine DeWine Murphy and William III. So I kind of started in church, and then from there I went to people like Usher and Neo and the newer artists. But I always had influence from like the old cats, man. So I say from the Temptations on up to like Chris Brown today. So everything in between, man. But my biggest influence is definitely Tank. R&B singer named Tank.
I gotta say, Tank, without a doubt, probably one of the most underrated singers out there right now. He doesn't get a lot of recognition like the Ushers and Chris Browns and Neos of the world, but he's had his share of success. It's just that he just really haven't gotten acknowledged like the other cats I mentioned.
Yeah, Tank is a writer, man, and a vocalist, but he's definitely one of the most underrated artists out there. Definitely, even with his success that he's had, extremely underrated. So, yeah, it's crazy. But Tank is dope, man. Tank is dope.
Now, obviously, I first heard of you through a fellow Michigan artist. You actually are Labelmates. Goes by the name of Drew 32. How did y'all two first meet, and how did y'all started this relationship that y'all are now Labelmates?
You know what, man? It all started at school. We went to Avondale School District in Michigan, and I met Drew at a district-wide talent show, and I saw this little kid rapping. I'm like, man, this little short dude is dope, because he was real small back then. But I saw him, then we met, and I saw him again at this other function called Spring Fest that happens at Avondale every year. And he was rapping with a friend of ours named Joe. And they were on stage doing sound check. I'm like, man, let me hop on with y'all. I was always trying to get on stage doing something. And I ended up hyping for him and Joe Murph. They recorded it, and Drew's dad saw it. He was like, who's this kid with y'all on stage rapping himself like he a rapper? And just told me who I was. And then from there, they contacted me to do some other stuff with Drew, and ever since then, it's been hitting the world running ever since. So we did a song together called Twisted, the first song we ever did together. It's horrible. Now listen to it, I hate it, but we had to start somewhere. So that's how it started, man, about 7 years ago.
Now that I think about it, have you ever, other than the song you mentioned, have you ever dealt with being in the studio, putting a song together, and then you hear it all together, you ended up disliking it? I mean, normally artists do what they can to make sure they pull out the best music that they could possibly can. And more times than not, it sounds good, but obviously you being the artist, you have a better understanding than a lot of people do. I mean, have you ever dealt more times than none that you put a song together and you end up hating it?
Yeah. I think that will be personally. I think it's a process that every artist goes through called finding your sound. And that's a process of basically trial and error. So some songs you record, you may love right now. Then a week later, you can't stand that song. It's every case is different. But you need this period that you go through to write and record and figure out what you want to sound like and what your style is. Every artist goes through this rap, singing, whatever. But it's just a matter of finding your sound. And I had that for the last couple years. Like, I've been singing since I was 14 in studios. But just last summer, I released my actual first single called Lost in Love. And before that, it was just the process. Okay, this is what I want to sound like. This is my material, and let's make it work. So through that whole process, yeah, I've had stuff that I can't stand now. So, yeah, definitely.
Earlier, you mentioned the Temptations, and obviously you live in Michigan, which is home of Motown.
Yes, sir.
One of the greatest eras of all music. And their music is timeless. A lot of big name artists have come from that label, have become global icons of music to this day. You know, Stevie Wonders, Jackson 5, of course, Michael as a solo artist. I mean, how do you feel about the impact that Motown has made in music?
Man, Motown is a staple in American music, period. But even African American artists, it was a huge platform, you know. Because before that, they were signed to labels, but I think Motown was the premier label that was owned by African American man named Barry Gordon. But Motown has this influence along with Motown on music, period, is catastrophic. But as far as I go, I take the cats like Marvin Gaye and Smokey, and I listen to their stuff, and that inspires me to do what I do. So without Motown, it wouldn't even be as smooth, period. So Motown is a huge influence on my career, at least.
Fast forward into the music of today. How do you, as an artist and as a fan, how do you feel about the music that's on the radio these days?
Music these days, to be perfectly honest with you, I can appreciate it and the creativity, but I think it's still lacking. It's still lacking some soul in it. It's lacking something real. And I think music nowadays, everything is kind of sounding the same. And it's not to point fingers at the artist or the labels or the radio station, but I think it's a lack of real artistry in the industry right now. And that's what I think hip-hop, R&B isn't really at the forefront like it used to be either. But as far as music on the radio right now, I feel like it's kind of a lack of individuality, you know? So I'm not saying that I don't like the radio right now, but I think it could be altered and a little bit better as far as quality of music that's out. I think a lot of cats are trying to sound like everybody else.
I'm definitely feel the same way. It just seems like music nowadays, when one person wants to do something, everyone else wants to follow. And I guess what's really lacking is thinking outside the box. I know it's a cliche, but it's something that artists sometimes needs to dig deep and consider doing that. I guess at this point of time, people wanting out of new things to make their music sound different. I mean, I guess either you follow the trend, be successful, or you're not gonna sell a lot of records or have a lot of radio airplay. So I guess the music is what it is, but you know, the creativity, there could be a little bit more in that.
I mean, honestly, I'm a student of music and the game, meaning like the business part of it and the artist part of it. And I was watching these videos on YouTube of Lil Wayne, and he's talking about being an artist. He was like, man, don't follow the trend. Just be yourself. Just be you. There's only one of you in the entire world. You know, so there's only one you. So being different is being yourself. It doesn't take a whole lot to be different. Just be you. It's only one you. You know, and just being honest and being real about it. Matter of fact, when I was writing the EP and putting it together, I hit a writer's block. I was like, man, Drew, how do you write through this? He's like, man, look, don't focus on writing. Focus on living. Take what you know, take real life, and tell your story. Be you. And from that, I just went on and just did the whole thing from there. But that's just how I do my thing with my art. You know, I just take what I've been through and what I know and tell a story.
Well put, man. Well put. Do you think the reason that there's a lack of creativity these days is maybe because of I guess, the regular executives or the people at the higher power just telling artists what to do and they go through with it? You think it's a lack of freedom from the artists, the way they want to have their sound put out there to the public?
Yes and no. I feel like on one hand, it is the industry trying to like taper down what the artist does to make it more commercial, more marketable. Because record labels are interested in selling albums, not necessarily in selling you. You know what I mean? So as far as what you think is art and what they see is dollar signs, doesn't always go together. And that's the craft that you have. I would say it's a combination of both. You know, it's not being an artist is not always all about the money and how big your deal is. You know, it's about being you and maintaining who you are, compromising a little bit because that's just business. That's how it is. But you got to remain who you are at the same time. And I'm not, bashing anybody or pointing no fingers, but we got to withhold that integrity of our art form as artists. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, how can people listen to your music?
You can go on bsmooth.bandcamp.com. You can go to quartertoinfinity.com or Drew32.com. They all have my EP. You go to my Bandcamp, download for free and all that good stuff. You go to my Twitter, it's at _bsmooth, or my Facebook is facebook.com/officiallybsmooth. You find me anywhere on those. You can find me and my music and everything else you want to know about me.
So, do you have any new music or like music videos or upcoming shows, performances, concerts that you would like to promote?
Yeah, we got, well, at least on my end, I got videos coming out next couple weeks for at least 3 of the songs. So looking out for those. Myself and Drew32 will be at the Shelter in downtown Detroit this Friday, 9 o'clock. It's going to be off the hook, man. So anybody in the area, definitely come through.
Back to music in Michigan real quick. Obviously, you got Motown. Then you got artists like a Royce da 5'9", Eminem, D12, and those guys have definitely made their mark in music, and now it's not just music wise, it's TV wise. For my understanding, you got the new host of 106 in Park. They're from the state of Michigan as well. Shorty the Prince and Pagion. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I mean,
yes, sir.
Are you familiar with those two?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty cool with Pagion. I've met Shorty twice. I think Drew had a song with him on his last mixtape, and I was there for that set. So I met Shorty and I met Pagion. They're both very down to earth people, man. Hard workers. They love what they do, and they love their city. And they're definitely putting on and representing for Detroit, man. So we're definitely behind them. Even though Shorty is from St. Louis, technically, he got Detroit State, so he can claim Detroit too, man. He's definitely an adopted son of Detroit, and we definitely support him.
I gotta say, so far they're doing a real good job, as well as Mikey and Bow Wow. Well, that came out of nowhere, but I guess you got a name like 106 in Park, Mr. 106. I guess it's only a matter of time before he plays a role in the show somewhere. And the fact that he's with...
Bow Wow was running 106 when I was a little kid. Bow Wow was 106. People used to run home after school to watch Bow Wow on 106. So, I think it was a matter of time before he did something with that anyway. I think it was probably in the works long before he came out on it. It
was only a matter of time, but yeah. he got what he wanted, so, and he's YMCMB, so that connection here and there. I guess
those labels for your name nowadays. It's some serious weight behind that, man. Wayne is just took that to the next level. See it with all his artists.
Oh, absolutely.
So, gotta respect the hustle. Wayne.
What would your advice be to anyone out there that wants to pursue their career as a music artist? What would your advice be?
Go for it. It's that easy. Just go for it. Whatever dream you have, go for it. You put all your energy into it and stay true to yourself and be you and work hard, and you can do it. Period. So if you got the heart for it and you want to do it, go for it. Follow your dreams. You get one life, you get one shot, and that's it. So go for it. That's my advice to you.
Again, I'm joined with B Smooth, R&B singer from Michigan, right here on Chilling with Jeff and Kenny C for an exclusive interview. You tweeted me the other day about the Mike DAntoni situation.
I knew that was coming up. All right.
Yeah, and right. I need to clarify what I was trying to say on the tweet that I guess you read it, and I should have said I have doubts instead of no doubts. I don't know how I just typed it, no doubts, but that's what happens when you don't proofread before you tweet. So that's on me. But let me clarify myself by saying that I think DAntoni is an exciting head coach. It's going to be fast-paced, and he's reunited with Steve Nash, and he should be back on the court soon. But as far as them winning championships, he didn't do it in Phoenix, and he certainly didn't do it in New York. So even with the talent they have in L.A., I don't see them winning a championship there neither. I say they'll still be deep in the playoffs, but I don't see them win at all.
Okay. All right. Let's put it like this. As far as a head coach and a team that wins championships, you're going to need heavy emphasis on defense. Defense wins championships, period. Okay? Mike DAntoni does not emphasize defense enough to be in a championship, period. Now, granted, he has Kobe, he has Nash, he has Dwight Howard. So they're going to win games, period. I give him that. But as far as them being a contender in the finals, I don't see it. I just don't see it with Mike D'Antoni. I was shocked. First of all, the fact that they didn't pick Phil Jackson threw me off point blank. I was flabbergasted by that. Then on top of that, they didn't even call Brian Shaw. That's what I was thinking after Phil Jackson. That's the next best thing. I mean, he was a disciple of Phil Jackson. Now, granted, Phil Jackson and people in the front office at the Lakers organization have some issues, okay? They don't really see eye to eye necessarily. But, I mean, at least get somebody that's Phil Jackson-like in Brian Shaw.
Brian Shaw.
That's what I would think. So when they didn't pick Brian Shaw, I was flawed about that. I think that would have been a better decision than Mike D'Antoni, personally.
I say they should have picked Brian Shaw before picking Mike Brown. To tell
Mike
you
Brown,
the truth.
yeah, I was thinking that too, but I was actually giving Mike Brown the benefit of the doubt because he had LeBron, that was semi-successful. I mean, they still didn't get a ring, so I mean, it didn't really pan out like they wanted it to. But I mean, think about it though. Mike Brown didn't really even have a chance to really get in good and get himself set up to even win a championship. In my opinion, I mean, I can get to work it out even further, but I don't know. But like I said, if anybody would have been next up, I'd have called Brian Shaw. Better yet, Phil Jackson.
I was shocked to hear that D'Antoni became a head coach too of the Lakers. If you can't succeed in LA with Kobe, Howard, Nash, and company, considering that Howard is still on the last year of his contract, then you better not look for another coaching gig. Maybe commissioner, since David Stern won't be there for long, 2014 to be exact. It's gonna be interesting to see what D'Antoni can do, but I don't see them winning championships. If I'm like a Oklahoma City or San Antonio or any other team in the West, I'm kind of breathing right now. Like, they're not going to be much of a problem because
You
DAntoni
know
is
what?
not a
I think the
defensive.
whole Western Conference was like just had a sigh of relief when they found out Bill's not coming back. Oh, and Mike Brown is gone, and they picked Mike D'Antoni. Oh, but they really can't get too settled down yet because think about it, you got Kobe, Nash, and Dwight Howard. You know, like there ain't no bums. Them cats play ball. Period. So you still got to compete and play. But when it comes down to it, I don't think that they have the right coaching staff on the team. Period. I don't think they're going to get to the. I think it'll be OKC and Miami again.
You know, I thought of Miami versus LA before Mike Brown lost his job, and I think I'm leaning toward OKC, even if they don't have James Harden. Kevin Martin's definitely going to have to step up because James Harden's been playing sensational since he became a Rocket. So, you know, those two are definitely going to be keeping an eye on throughout this season to see where they go from here. You know, James Harden can play for a lot of. He could be a starter for a lot of teams, and he's definitely shown that thus far.
James Harden, okay, I'll put it like this. James Harden will be a star on the Rockets team. But James Harden on OKC, you got a strapped up starting five already. I'm sorry. You're talking about you had Kevin Durant and Westbrook. Those are the workhorses of the team. Those are your stars. James Harden was a role player. He was important, don't get me wrong. But not having him on the team is not going to change what they're going to do. I'll put it like that. So they will still be won, and the fight will still be there for them. But he's not the be-all, end-all OKC.
You know, at the end of the day, it revolves around Durant and Westbrook, and you gotta wonder if James Harden would have played a lot better in the NBA Finals. Will he still be in an OKC uniform by now? Is that something that may have played a role of him being traded? And they gave him about an hour to sign like some 4 year deal, and Harden was like, "I'm going to Houston." I mean,
I really don't blame him, honestly, because you know what? At least in Houston, he would be more of a factor as far as leading the team. On Houston, James Harden's a leader. Period. He's a leader. So it's almost in his best interest to be the bigger fish in a smaller pond. You know what I mean when I say that?
yeah.
So it would make more sense for him to be the man than to be, just a role player. So I don't blame him.
Man, I feel like we can talk for forever, man. I'm a basketball fan myself. You a Detroit Pistons fan by any chance?
I will always support my home team, even though they're not doing the best, and they just lost. And they could have won the last game that they played, but I will always support my team.
I've been a Pistons fan for quite a while, especially, when Tayshaun Prince played there. I live in Kentucky. I seen him play college ball, and I became a fan of the Pistons. And obviously, I like what Isaiah and Joe and Lambeer and those guys did back in the day. Yeah, Joe DeMar looked like a genius once upon a time, and that team is fair. That team will fell apart, losing people left and right. But I'm gonna stick with the Pistons. I don't expect them to do much, but
yeah,
you gotta stick with the
I
team.
think it's gonna take some major personnel building and shifting them around for them to be a contender. But I will always support them. I'll put it like that. But as far as Eastern Conference, I'm definitely going with Miami. LeBron is playing pretty good basketball this year. I don't see him really being contained by anybody. So I'm gonna take Miami. And of course, Ray Allen. That addition was he's just the best 3-point shooter of all time, and Hall of Famers on the same starting five. It's all on the same team. So it's like money in the bank. Literally, it's money in the bank.
When it comes to Miami, it's pretty much pick your poison. You either let LeBron or Wade go to the hole, or you leave them room for Allen or Lewis or Mike Miller get open. They make shots. The last person you want to leave open is Ray Allen. More 3 points than anyone in NBA history, and he's still able to make big shots. I mean, Boston's going to regret letting him go. You rely on Bradley, who's a young defensive player. You got Jason Terry, but the Celtics they're not getting any younger. And Miami, they're going to be owning that conference for quite a while.
Yeah, and like I said, with Miami, it's the point of, okay, if you double team LeBron, you're going to leave Ray, D-Wade, somebody's going to be open to shoot, and the entire team can shoot. So that's the issue that you have. So if you want to double somebody, you can do that, but you got shooters waiting to shoot. They're looking at their tops for the three-point shot. So like I said, it's a matter of picking your poison. So it's going to be interesting to see who can contain that to beat them this year.
Absolutely, man. And I want to thank you for joining me. Half of the interview, we talked music, and other half talking about basketball. Great talking to you. And I definitely understand why you're such a basketball fanatic. You know, very passionate about it.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you for the interview, man, and the opportunity. Appreciate you, man.
Everybody be on the lookout for B Smooth. Shout out to Drew 32. Shout out to the label. Shout out to everybody, man.
Quarter to infinity. Had to do it. I had to do it.
Shout out to them too, man. Thank you everyone for listening. This will conclude the interview.